SpaceX and its ambitious Starship lunar lander are taking most of the spotlight right now for delays in NASA's Artemis program. Don't get me wrong, SpaceX is making incredible progress on one of the toughest engineering challenges in history, and they're clearly pushing full speed ahead. But it's not like the rest of Artemis is moving flawlessly, while SpaceX is the only bottleneck. Still, it begs the question: what more could SpaceX realistically do to accelerate Starship's development? And if that's not possible, are there alternate strategies that could keep the mission on track? NASA has been actively seeking new concepts for lunar landers to ensure astronauts return to the moon safely. SpaceX's Starship, originally picked for the job, has progressed more slowly than anticipated. On Monday, U.S. Transportation Secretary and interim NASA Administrator Sean Duffy revealed that NASA will reopen the Human Landing System (HLS) contract for Artemis 3, the mission aimed at landing American astronauts on the moon for the first time since Apollo. SpaceX was initially awarded the contract, and Duffy praised the company for its innovation. Yet he expressed concerns that Starship might not be ready on time, hinting that competitors like Blue Origin could step in. "They're behind schedule," Duffy said. "Timelines have slipped, and we're racing against China. The president and I want to get to the moon within this term." As expected, Elon Musk didn't take the comments lightly, firing back on X by calling Duffy a dangerously stupid dummy. Politics aside, the state of Starship today explains why Duffy might have doubts. Since its debut in 2023, Starship has flown 11 times with mixed results. Some flights ended in what SpaceX calls rapid unscheduled disassemblies, their trademark term for explosions. But there have also been major wins, like the first successful landing of the Super Heavy booster at Starbase, a key milestone for reusability. While SpaceX has successfully landed Starship prototypes before, it hasn't yet landed a full two-stage system. That's the next big milestone, proving both stages can be rapidly reused, which is central to SpaceX's plan for frequent low-cost missions. The upper stage has already splashed down in the ocean during tests, helping refine re-entry and descent systems. The ultimate goal, though, is to land it back at Starbase, caught mid-air by the Mechazilla Tower arms. Elon Musk says that could happen as early as 2026. Starship still hasn't achieved full orbital insertion, which is essential for Moon and Mars missions. To reach orbit, the upper stage must separate from the booster around 75 kilometers up and complete several orbital burns with its 6 Raptor engines. A true orbital flight could happen in 2026, followed by the toughest part: surviving re-entry and landing safely back at Starbase. Another critical milestone is in-orbit refueling, one Starship transferring cryogenic methane and oxygen to another. This is essential for deep space missions like Artemis 3, and SpaceX plans to test it next year. Meeting their aggressive timeline means SpaceX has to overcome a host of engineering, operational, and regulatory hurdles. The bottom line, there's still a lot of work to do. SpaceX remains the most capable space company in the solar system, but putting all the pieces together for a successful lunar landing is a massive challenge. SpaceX has stated it can be ready by 2028 to carry Artemis astronauts to the moon, which aligns with NASA's updated schedule for Artemis 3. But in spaceflight, nothing is ever guaranteed. So what could SpaceX do to speed things up? One major way is cranking out reliable hardware even faster. To boost launch cadence, they need more Super Heavy boosters and Starships rolling off the line constantly. That requires an efficient, high-output manufacturing setup for engines and airframes, and they're already making moves in that direction. The new Star Factory in Boca Chica is a game-changer. It's designed to cut construction time drastically, with rotating work platforms and automated welding robots keeping production humming. And that's just the start. 2 more gigabays and another Star Factory in Florida are on the way, effectively doubling production capacity. Launch infrastructure is expanding too. SpaceX is building 4 launch pads simultaneously: Pad B in Boca Chica, one at LC-39A, and two at SLC-37 in Florida. They're even assembling a horizontal transport barge to move Starship and Super Heavy stages between Texas and Florida before the new factories are fully online. Testing is another critical piece. The faster they can test engines and rockets, the faster they can develop them. Expanding the McGregor engine test facility would allow more Raptor engines, especially the Raptor 3s, to run in parallel. More test stands and trained staff could shave months off the development timeline. The human factor is huge, too. SpaceX needs highly skilled engineers, welders, and technicians, which aren't easy to find. One solution could be opening a training academy to bring in fresh talent and train them internally. They're also upgrading the Massey test site after the Ship 36 incident. Adding another test pad would allow one to be offline for maintenance without slowing the program. Imagine if boosters could be static-fired somewhere other than the main pad. It would free up launch windows and keep operations moving smoothly. Even small logistics improvements matter. A new road connecting the build site to the launch site could streamline rocket moves, while additional storage bays near the pad would make handling large hardware much easier. Life at Starbase itself could also use upgrades. They're already adding apartments and a gym, but more creature comforts would make a big difference. Think a pizza place serving hundreds at lunch, a few more cafes, or a shuttle bus running between sites every 15 minutes. If more staff could live on site instead of commuting from Brownsville, operations would run even smoother. On the administrative side, SpaceX has to keep the paperwork moving as efficiently as the rockets. Launch licenses are crucial, and every new Starship version requires FAA approval. Any delays here can grind the entire program to a halt. A stable and predictable regulatory process would make a huge difference in keeping launches on schedule. Environmental concerns add another layer of complexity. Starbase in Texas is under close scrutiny for its impact. Things like debris, rocket exhaust, and noise all attract federal attention. SpaceX needs to stay ahead of these issues and work closely with regulators to avoid delays. The faster they can address these concerns, the smoother operations can run. At the end of the day, it's hard to imagine SpaceX going faster than they already are. They're building factories, pads, and testing rockets at an insane pace. But knowing SpaceX, if there's a way to shave even a few more days off the schedule, they'll find it. I believe Starship will eventually send humans to the moon and back, maybe even solo. But with Sean Duffy's public insistence on beating China to the moon, it makes sense to explore backup plans just in case. One idea gaining traction is a shorter, lighter version of Starship for lunar missions. The current design has two major challenges. It needs multiple refuelings, and its height makes landing on uneven terrain tricky. NASA doesn't actually need Starship's full payload capacity to deliver astronauts and gear to the moon. A key point. The Starship HLS probably shouldn't perform its own translunar injection TLI burn. That requires carrying around 20 to 25 tons of extra propellant and tanks, which are only used once. After the burn, all that mass becomes dead weight, making lunar descent, ascent, and return less efficient. A solution: make the lander shorter and lighter. Instead of performing the TLI burn itself, the lander could launch into low Earth orbit and dock with a separate translunar tug or depot, which handles the burn. Removing the TLI hardware would significantly reduce dry mass. This has big advantages. A lower, more compact lander is more stable during landing, simplifies things like crew elevators, and gives more delta-V margin for the round trip between the near rectilinear halo orbit and the lunar surface. It also cuts propellant needs, reducing the number of tanker launches and simplifying operations while lowering costs. Of course, this is just a concept. Building a new Starship variant and adjusting mission profiles would require NASA approval. And Elon Musk usually wants Starship bigger, taller, and more powerful. It's unclear if he'd back this approach. NASA isn't planning to swap out SpaceX's Starship immediately. Instead, it's shaping up as a race between SpaceX and Blue Origin. Whoever gets a lunar lander ready first for Artemis 3 is likely to win the mission. Blue Origin's lander is quite different from Starship. Standing about 16 meters tall, it's designed to fit into the 7-meter payload bay of their New Glenn rocket, which, fun fact, still hasn't flown yet. This lander can carry roughly 20 metric tons to the moon and is reusable, or up to 30 tons if it stays on the lunar surface. It runs on liquid hydrogen and oxygen, with fuel tanks in the upper half and the crew cabin at the bottom. Blue Origin isn't going it alone. They're teaming up with Lockheed Martin, which is building an orbital refueling vehicle, while other partners handle docking, navigation, and cargo unloading. For now, the human landing system has a single mission: safely transporting astronauts to and from the moon. The first Artemis missions will focus on that, providing a temporary home for crews during their brief lunar stay. It'll offer protection from radiation while astronauts conduct science experiments and surface operations. As missions advance, the HLS will take on a bigger role. NASA is already planning for longer lunar stays and eventually laying the groundwork for a permanent presence. That means delivering habitat structures, mining equipment, and resource processing tools from Earth, everything future astronauts will need to live off the land. Developing these lunar landers isn't easy. NASA's requirements push contractors to use a lot of new, unproven technologies, which means delays and design changes are almost inevitable. SpaceX has already faced some of these hurdles. The Government Accountability Office, GAO, pointed out that most of the critical technologies needed for these landers aren't fully mature yet. Out of 11 key systems, only 4 are considered ready for operational use. That leaves a lot of unknowns for engineers to solve before humans ever climb aboard. The real challenge comes when astronauts actually use these landers on live missions. There won't be a ton of real-world testing under mission conditions, which makes every flight riskier. NASA has to balance moving quickly with keeping crews safe, a task that's far easier said than done. At the end of the day, SpaceX and its competitors are pushing the limits of aerospace engineering. Every new design, test, and launch brings us closer to seeing humans return to the moon. But one thing is clear. No matter who wins the Artemis 3 race, the journey to the lunar surface will be full of high-stakes innovation, risk, and ingenuity.